What's going on, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages? Joker back again once again, and today, people, today, we're talking about Edge of Fate. Well, kinda, sort of. This is more of a quick 50,000 feet, spoiler-free piece of editorializing for anybody teetering on the edge, wondering if they should dive in or just watch the flaming wreckage from a distance. It's not so much a review as it is a commentary. Spoiler alert, it was not quick. So, let me ask a question. Is this the DLC you've been waiting for? Is this worth your time, your money, your last little brittle shreds of hope? Is Destiny back, baby? Well, I think the best way to answer this question is to talk about a phrase that you hear thrown around basically every Destiny DLC, and it's one that I've really grown to absolutely loathe over the entire Edge of Fate review cycle. Good for a Destiny DLC. Ah, yes, that critical participation trophy, the limp slap on the back. It's a phrase born in a hermetically sealed echo chamber where mediocrity, if propped up with enough asterisks and disclaimers, suddenly becomes the best thing since sliced bread. Proper criticism? No, we do not do that here. That is something to be dodged, deflected, and drowned out in the communal chant of, well, I had fun. Like that's a fucking metric that matters in the grand scheme of things. Ah, yes, little Timmy, I'm glad you had fun. Just like I'm sure the developers of the lowest selling Destiny DLC in the last decade will have fun clearing out their desks. Remember, kids, fun may be subjective, but money isn't. Money doesn't care about your subjective feelings. Money cares about objective results. And even, well, I had fun, feels like a bit of a dubious claim. One that is destined to die the moment the post-DLC clarity kicks in and the honeymoon phase ends. At least if history is any indication when it comes to better DLCs. So let me ask the most logical question then. What part of Edge of Fate was fun exactly? Was it Matterspark, the third coming of Bungie tutorializing an entire DLC around a shiny new ability, except this time, it's not a new subclass, it's a half-baked migraine-inducing rave grenade, a gimmick so irritating, so universally panned that not even the positivity police can spin it, and are more or less willing to throw it under the bus as sort of a compromise when defending the story? Or maybe it's the combat. And I use the term combat pretty loosely, because every single boss, sub-boss, elite, named mook, and janitor with a goddamn title will inevitably, at one point or another, be cocooned in a shield of invincibility. Because nothing screams gameplay innovation like being forced to stop the gameplay every 2 seconds to go run an errand mid-gunfight. Gotta shoot the servitor, and/or gotta find the node that makes the servitor vulnerable, so then you can go shoot the servitor, kill the servitor, and then finally shoot the boss for about 10 seconds, and then it's back to another lap around the arena while the music swells like something's happening. Spoiler alert, nothing's happening. Or maybe, and I'm really trying here, you enjoyed the puzzles.
Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
Those low IQ, low effort chores that feel less like brain teasers and more like Bungie daring you to alt-tab and play something else. If boredom was a mechanic, these puzzles would be its final form, and they would call it the cure to insomnia. Or maybe, just maybe, you genuinely had fun with the power grind, that soul-sucking ritual of replaying years-old content or a year-old exotic mission again and again and again and again and again and again and again, because this $40 slice of nothing didn't ship with enough content to sustain its own grind. That was, until, of course, Bungie decided that Encore was too generous and disabled it twice. You can't have players being efficient and getting to the content they actually want to do. No. They need 90 hours of pointless grind for worthless gear, because there's no system where if by chance you get that god-rolled weapon before you've put in your 90 hours of mandatory playtime, you're you're allowed to level that weapon up to a tier 4 or 5 weapon. No, anything before you reach tier 4 or 5 weapons where the game actually allows you to start playing the game is essentially worthless. Do not pass go, do not collect $200, just go fuck yourself. I couldn't think of a more demoralizing system if I tried. Or maybe, just maybe, you were particularly taken aback by the story. I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this one. A story that is a tangled mess of half-fleshed out plot points stitched together by a narrator's self-insert deus ex machina and the plan, where every major reveal appears exactly when the plot demands it. There's no build-up, no real mystery, just a blunt, and here's what happens now! Any pretense of organic storytelling is gone. This story is on more rails than a metaphysical freight train. It's the kind of writing that, when praised, reminds me that in 2024, 21% of adults in the US were found to be illiterate, while 54% of adults in the US had a literacy below a 6th grade reading level. So yeah, you had fun. Sure, no sarcasm, no Stockholm Syndrome jokes, honest. Just because I didn't find an aspect of a game well developed doesn't mean you can't, or that you're wrong for enjoying it. For example, I still have what is probably an unhealthy amount of fun running around PvP as a Titan, punching people in the face, laughing with friends, and quoting such timeless mantras as, turning a gunfight into a fistfight is an awful lot of work, tactically speaking. I still love it. I love everything about being a Titan. Maybe that says something about me. Maybe I've got a masochistic streak. Who can say? Point is, just in case all the sarcasm, spite, and borderline ranting has somehow clouded the message, there's nothing wrong with liking this. If you genuinely had a good time, Godspeed. But know what you're liking. Acknowledge its flaws and acknowledge that it's okay, normal even, for people to take issues with the game. Not with you, not with your enjoyment of it, but with the game, with the corporation making the game. And more than that, it's good for the entire goddamn industry to hold the studio that Sony handpicked to spearhead their entire live service wet dream accountable. A company that treats its employees like disposable assets, milks its player base dry, and couldn't ship a complete product if the fate of the company literally depended on it. They're not your friends, they're not the plucky underdog, they're not some little brave independent studio fighting against the odds. They're a bloated, mismanaged corpo puppet jerking around to Microsoft and Activision's playbook while Sony handles the marionette strings. And if you still want to defend that, be my guest. But don't mistake it for critical thinking. That's brand loyalty with brain damage. But I digress. Now, of course, I'm not the only one sitting here scratching my head over what exactly people are praising this DLC for, because apparently the former Destiny community can't figure it out either, at least according to what Steam charts tells us. For the first time in Destiny's storied loot-chasing, dopamine-dealing history, a DLC didn't crack 100,000 players on Steam day one. It barely limped over that by the weekend, and it's been hemorrhaging players, tens of thousands of players, every single day since. This is a franchise that used to triple those numbers on the Tuesday morning of a content release before the servers stabilized. But don't worry, there's always an excuse, a reason, an extenuating circumstance. My absolutely favorite coping mechanism that has been paraded around like it's gospel is, but Joker, Final Shape was the end of a 10-year saga. Of course people laugh. Of course. Naturally. Like clockwork. Right. 10-year story ends, credits roll, pack it up, boys! The Destiny amusement park shuts down. Everybody files out in an orderly line, thanking the developers for the memories. Nothing to see here. Move along. Except, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. And it's sure as shit not how Sony or Bungie wants it to work. Plenty of franchises, successful ones, beloved ones, have kept trucking for decades without spontaneously combusting the moment they finish a storyline. Final Fantasy, World of Warcraft, Warframe, Warhammer, Zelda, Resident Evil, Pokemon, Elder Scrolls, GTA, Call of Duty still lurches out of its grave every year and shambles on like a zombie with a multi-billion-dollar marketing team. Then there's Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, James Bond, Batman, Superman, Transformers, Power Rangers, Godzilla, Gundam. And that's just off the top of my head. The mega popular stuff that people are gonna know at a glance. The list really does go on and on and on and on and on. I don't have to tell you guys this, everybody knows it, but entire franchises keep moving, evolving, stumbling, reinventing themselves without spontaneously combusting just because they finished a plotline. And you want me to believe that Destiny, this billion-dollar live service juggernaut, just keels over and dies because they wrapped up a storyline? Really? Please. That excuse only makes sense if you've already decided to blame everything except the actual content of the game.
But Joker, franchise fatigue.
Yes. Franchise fatigue, that mystical, magical force that somehow only shows up when a long-running franchise or genre starts shitting the bed harder than Amber Heard. Funny how that works. Also, funny how it mysteriously evaporates the second a quality product shows up. Really gets the noggin jogging here. Because here's the thing. When a game, movie, or show is actually good, and I mean genuinely capital G good, not good for a Destiny DLC kinda good, nobody's crying about fatigue. Nobody's checking out. They're tuning in. They're logging on. They're throwing money at the screen. So no, franchise fatigue is not the problem. Mediocrity fatigue is the problem. Bullshit fatigue is the problem. Pay $40 for a half-baked DLC with less content than you used to get, while also getting nickeled and dimed every step of the way. Fatigue is the problem. You give people quality, and they show up. You give people recycled content, padded out encounters, weak storytelling, horde mode after horde mode after horde mode, and they leave. What? That's not fatigue, that's clarity. Final Shape wasn't just the end of a 10-year saga. It was an off-ramp, a graceful exit for people neck deep in sunk cost, desperate for a reason to stop. It gave just enough closure for people to walk away. Not because they were satisfied, but because they were exhausted. It gave them permission to stop pretending. And boy, did they take it. The story didn't end, just the illusion. So let's just say it plainly. This whole phrase, good for a Destiny DLC, is a lie. Not just a lie of admission, a soft, cowardly dodge around the truth, but a lie of principle. A quiet little confession. At best, it means you have no standards. At worst, it means you have an agenda, because let's be real, let's be honest, let's be real honest for a moment. Nobody wants the studio behind their favorite game to fail. So what's a little white lie? And if somebody calls you on it, you can just shrug and say, well, it was just $40. What's $40 to you? It's just $40 and a difference of opinion. Or at worst, these people have never consumed a single piece of media outside of this franchise. No other games, no films beyond the latest reheated and retreaded Marvel slop, and God forbid they've opened a chapter book since the 5th grade. Good for a Destiny DLC is a tacit admission that it can't stand on its own, that Destiny somehow deserves a separate grading scale. A discount curve for mediocrity. But here's the kicker. The real brain-bending, logic-defying, cognitive dissident souffle baked with a fresh side of recency bias. Even that phrase, good for Destiny DLC, isn't true here. Not by the franchise's own standards. Not by what we used to get before with DLC. If the bar is literally just, don't be as bad as Shadowkeep, don't be as bad as Beyond Light, don't be as bad as Lightfall, then congratulations, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages. We have done this to ourselves, and we deserve every single piece of shitty content we get. Because Edge of Fate isn't Destiny at its best. It's not even good Destiny. This is Destiny on life support. So if you did the same thing and took the off-ramp and now you're wondering, should I get back on? Because people far more emotionally entangled in this than you or I are screaming, this DLC is amazeballs, asterisk, 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 for a Destiny DLC. That should be all the flashing neon warning sign you need to stay far, far away from this buggy, bloated, balance-breaking mess of a content drip. Because when the loudest praise comes prepackaged with disclaimers, caveats, and, well, actuallys, what they're really saying is, it's tolerable if you still live here. And look, I get it. It's easy to hear a sharp, overly opinionated editorial like this and go, well, that's Joker. He's just hating to hate. But that couldn't be further from the truth. I'm not here to lie to you. I'm not here to slap a smiley face on a landfill and call it an amusement park. And I'm sure as shit not here to play this exhausting game where every little piece of criticism is diluted with qualifiers and softened with disclaimers and wrapped in a blanket of positivity while being as apologetic as humanly possible for daring to have grievances in the first place. Toxic positivity is more hollow and dishonest than blind hate. Don't get me wrong, both are lazy, both ignore actual problems, and neither does the franchise any favors. But toxic positivity does nothing. It doesn't help anything. It ignores all the problems while everything gets worse. At least with blind hate or super negativity, there's a foundation, there's a criticism, there's a reason, there's something that can be worked upon. But toxic positivity, it ignores the problems while everything goes to shit. Just for the sake of what? Ignoring the problems, being super positive? Yeah, guys, look on the bright side. We got more Destiny. Yeah, not for much longer if these numbers keep up. Now, it might shock some of you, but I actually like Destiny. I said it before, I'll say it again. I want this game to succeed. I don't want Bungie to crash and burn. At least, not entirely. Their management could go take a long walk for all I care, and nothing of value would be lost. But we get nowhere pretending that the ship isn't sinking. Just to what? Spare the fragile ego of a few emotionally underdeveloped twats who treat any and all criticism like a personal attack on their, what? Personality-defining addiction? That's the sort of bullshit that got us into this mess in the first place, and it's not going to get us out of it. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Remember to like, but only if you did. Subscribe for more. Feel free to donate to my Patreon if you're feeling particularly generous. And above all else, stay frosty.